Welcome back to another episode of Projecting Grandeur. I'm your host, Ron Dichter. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of this growing community of ours. Today, I want to talk about impossible. We have all heard it, and I am frankly sick of it. The word impossible is really one of those words that, to me, is for a moment in time, and it's never a thing that is lasting. And what I mean by that is the concept of something being impossible means that nobody's done it before. It doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means that up to this point, nobody has done it. And I get really frustrated when I hear people say the word impossible, especially when it comes to business, especially when it comes to starting a new business or a new idea. We hear this concept that something is impossible. And it's just not true. But as you think about all the things in the world that have been once impossible, I mean, just think of some obvious stuff, like a metal plane that weighs, I can't even tell you how many tons, can get off the ground and fly at 500 plus miles an hour. Like, who would have thought that? Or a huge cargo ship carrying, trillions or millions or billions of, pounds of cargo can float in the water. Like, all of these things seem impossible. And at the time, they probably were. But what ends up happening is that people figure out how to enhance the world, either through technology, through industrial improvements. But what ends up happening is they make what once was impossible possible. I even remember, I remember an interview with James Cameron, the director of many movies, but one specifically, Avatar. And he was talking about the very first Avatar movie, which was obviously a huge success. But he had said, when I came up with the idea of Avatar, we couldn't do it. The technology to be able to film the movie didn't exist. He's like, I knew it would be there someday, but at the time, the technology wasn't there. And I think he sat on that film for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years before it actually got made, because what he wanted to do, what he believed to be the future, couldn't be achieved at that moment in time. But again, just because it was impossible then doesn't mean that it couldn't be possible later. And then you think of like less obvious things, just in business, in somebody saying it's impossible for you to have success against a bigger company, or it's impossible for you to break into a vertical. And yet every day we see companies come in and either disrupt, where they're maybe doing something differently, or, finding just a way for them to be successful in a world where everyone said they couldn't. And I just get really frustrated when people throw in the towel over something that is, quote, impossible. And I talked earlier this week on another show about believing in your idea and believing in your concept. And what's funny is belief and possibility really go hand in hand. And as I think about those two episodes, or this episode with that one, like, making something possible is about believing that you can make something happen, seeing how to get there. And maybe there are going to be gaps. Maybe there are going to be limitations. Maybe there's things just simply like you don't have the money. But that doesn't mean that things aren't possible. It just means you have to figure out how to make the impossible possible. And Arnold Schwarzenegger has a great quote where he talks about everything is impossible until somebody does it, and then it becomes possible. And he has this great talk, I don't remember where I heard it, where he's talking about all the things that he wanted to do. And even even when he wanted to break into Hollywood, and people said, with your physique, the way you look, you're never going to be able to get into Hollywood. And he said, no, I can, I am, and I will. And he created, this leading man persona on this big muscly guy that everyone said couldn't be achieved. Again, so impossible is just a belief because nobody actually around you has done it. But that doesn't mean it can't be done. That doesn't mean that you can't accomplish what you want to do. And it doesn't even mean that, your idea is just a waste of time. It just means simply that you have to create a way to, bridge the gap between what is perceived to be impossible and what is impossible. And this is a little bit of an abstract episode, because obviously I don't have a specific example that I want to go through here. I just want everyone to understand that the word impossible is just a word that somebody is telling you because they've never done it. That doesn't mean it can't be done. The 4-minute mile was impossible. Now, hundreds of people every year break a 4-minute mile. In fact, high school athletes are breaking 4-minute miles. So When somebody says something is impossible, that just means it simply hasn't been done. And that doesn't mean that you can't do it. So I just want everyone to go into their new business, go into their career change, go into whatever it is that you're doing right now. And just remember, possible always starts with impossible. And then somebody does it. And then what once was impossible is now possible. So don't give up. Don't shake, or don't listen to the naysayers out there, and trust yourself. If you see the path, you are the person that's going to make impossible possible. And then everyone else will say, wow, I don't know how he or she did that. So good luck to you. I hope you find this helpful. Please remember to like and comment, and most importantly, share. This world is filled with a bunch of negative things and a bunch of people trying to sell you something. I just want to put out a good message to help our entrepreneurs out there, because these are the people that are changing the world. And I thank you for being part of it. Have a good day. I'm Ron Dichter. This is Projecting Grandeur.